Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Mental Overflow. This is actually episode 5 of the podcast. We've been doing this for a little while now, but we're still really new. So we need your help and support. Like and subscribe if you do like what we do. Xenophi, you have anything to say?
Just that I'm Xenophi.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Hey, Xenophi. I didn't see you there. Also, remember, we are recording. We're still not live yet, but we are recording from the Sin Shop Hackerspace in Las Vegas, Nevada, specifically Henderson. The address is 1075 American Pacific Drive, Suite C in Henderson, Nevada. If you are in the area, come on down. We do soldering classes. We do regular classes. We just did a class on electronics over the weekend.
Oh, yeah. That was super fun.
We record another podcast here every Friday night. And we do a lot of stuff here, actually.
Yeah.
So come on down, check us out, or just listen to this wherever you are.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. So, all right. What is Mental Overflow? Mental Overflow is a new kind of series that me and Xenophi are working on. And we're specifically concentrating or focusing on psychology, social engineering. I know you like to talk about things from the cybersecurity and automation point of view.
Yeah.
But the reason why we call ourselves Mental Overflow is because we are really dealing with mental hacking, things of that nature. So if you have not seen any of our previous episodes, I do recommend going back and watching those, only because if you notice, these
kind
things
of a
have
series.
been building on themselves. And I've kind of thought about it to be that way.
Yeah.
So in episode 4 of Mental Overflow, we talked about framing. And if you don't know what that is, I strongly suggest watching that episode. So today we're going to be talking about pretexting as it pertains to social engineering. Okay. Now, pretexting. The way I define pretexting is it's just your story or your alibi or your reason for being. So if you are taking on a persona, your pretext is why. Like, why are you that person? Why are you posing or portraying this individual or this, that's what I see as pretexting. Pretexting is very similar to framing, which we talked about last episode, but it also has its differences. So framing is, for instance, framing a question or a concept so that the target could understand or start thinking about that concept differently. Again, pretexting is your reason for being who you are, right? So pretexting is, in a social engineering example, let's say you dress up as the bug man or the cable repair guy. Okay, well, why do you need to be in this building? Well, obviously I'm the cable repair guy. There's an outage inside that I need to fix. So that is your pretext. That is your reason for being. Okay?
And how easy is it to pretext, do you think? Do you think there's...
Oh, dude, I've heard... Yeah.
Do you think there's basically an extreme set of skill? I mean, I do consider there to have skill in the sense of you need to be mentally and emotionally capable of taking on a different persona, because you're basically an actor at that point.
Yes.
I mean, anybody, like, the easiest form is putting on, a jacket and grabbing a ladder and, a little toolbox, and you're just walking along and like, hey, I'm here to fix the, leak in floor 3. Like, oh, here's your, little visitor's badge, just sign in there, and you're going up to floor 3.
Right. So acting, you used that word just a minute ago. Acting, I think, is a great word for what pretexting kind of is. Pretexting could be like you're acting, but also your bag of tools, like you were using the ladder as an example. Maybe a hard hat and a clipboard. And you're asking how difficult could this be? It is just as easy as putting on a hard hat and a clipboard and walking into a building. Okay, that's
actually,
I mean, that's what I've heard.
I mean, well, I'm thinking of it now as thinking about it more in depth with that. Even when I see those guys, they're not the most sociable dudes. They're like, I need to go up and do that. Like, they're just like blank, stone cold faced. You don't really have to be an actor. It's just the look. The persona is enough to convince. Now, pretexting over the phone is a bit different.
Yes, and we could definitely get into that. But right now we're kind of talking about the physical reason for being. Why are you who you say you are? Now, you kind of said that, well, you kind of have to present confidence or like you know what you're doing. That is true, but I always thought that was the only way that it had to be. And I've since changed my mind, because what if your pretext was that you are kind of like a timid like a little timid, geeky guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's who you're supposed to be. Maybe you are supposed to be the IT guy who is maybe not so confident or maybe not so sociable.
Yeah. And in a way, that's less is more.
Right, exactly. So maybe you go in and maybe you avoid eye contact, but remember, you're doing this on purpose. You're doing this because that's your pretext.
Yeah.
Right? So you're kind of avoiding eye contact. You're like, hey, I just, I need to fix the printer. I heard it was on, stairs. It's up the stairs on level 2. Sorry. So you're portraying this this kind of bumbling, maybe not so bright is not the right term for it, but maybe not so sociable, maybe not so confident. You're portraying that, and so the person who you're talking to is kind of like okay, well, come on over, let's just pass you along. Right. And so was I convincing there? I don't know, but you can see the change. You can see the change in the confidence versus. But they both have their place. Like 2 episodes ago, we were talking about open-ended versus closed-ended questions.
Yeah.
Both are good, but they need to be used at the right time. It's like any other tool set. In social engineering, you have a tool set. You have framing as a tool set. You have pretexting as a tool set. You have open and closed questions as a tool set. Yeah. Right? Or as the network hacker. They have Wireshark. Yeah. They have all these other scanners. They have things that get them to where they need to be. Yeah. They have things that get the job done. Social engineering is the same thing. Pretexting is just another tool. So are you portraying confidence? Well, if you need it. Yeah. Okay. Are you portraying maybe a little bit of a self-conscious type of individual? Well, if you need it.
Yeah.
Right.
For some reason, though, and tell me how this relates, or if it's super off topic. For whenever I think of pretexting, I always also think about tailgating. Like, if you've developed a physical pretext, do you necessarily need to talk to anybody if you could just follow somebody in and people just inherently believe you are who you look to be?
Well, okay, so I don't think tailgating is along the same lines as pretexting, and here's why. Like, first of all, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think tailgating is starting to become a known, by the common person, starting to become like a known attack vector.
And that's absolutely true.
Right?
I know plenty of internal security types of videos that are pushed out to companies that one of the major things is they talk about passwords and don't let somebody in without them badging in themselves.
Right, and that is a very proper way to do things. Yeah. So again, I don't think tailgating is going to be necessarily so common in the future, especially when you have things such as like a man trap, let's say, when we're talking about physical security. Yeah. But when it comes to pretexting and getting in, one thing that I've heard works very well is you fill a box of just random stuff, you close it up, but then you hold it like you're kind of like I can't get the door because I don't want to put this box down. Yeah. People are just more than willing to open the door for you because they are decent human beings. Yeah, yeah. And I thank them for that. Yeah. Right? So that's the pretext. The box is the pretext for why you can't open the door yourself. Yeah. You see, that's kind of where pretexting and tailgating kind of merge. Yeah. Okay, so tailgating itself, I don't think would be counted as pretexting.
Okay. No, I totally understand your point. Yeah.
But the way that you do it could be a pretext. Yeah. Right? Or you have your hands full. You have, whatever the case may be. I think the whole box or the hands full thing is the easiest way to merge tailgating with pretexting. Yeah. Because, maybe, like I said, you don't want to put the box down. Somebody sees that you're kind of struggling. Decent human beings, they just want to open the door for you and just feel good about themselves by helping out other human beings. Yeah. It's not... Yes, ultimately, it is their fault if the company gets infiltrated. But it's not their fault for being a decent human being. Yeah. That's just human nature. Mm-hmm. That's just how we've been programmed. It's tribal instincts.
And in those videos, I do see... You just said program, or not... it's just human nature. Mm-hmm. And they're programmed with decent, humanity or whatever. In these videos, it's almost like they're trying to reprogram their employees to be more cynical towards things.
Well, depending on the sensitivity of your work environment, I mean, you kind of want that. You know,
Yeah.
like you have your. It kind of goes to different hats, right? You have your home hat, like how you are at home, and then you have your work hat, right? So your work hat, maybe it's okay to be a little bit more cynical or a little bit more of an asshole for the sake of security.
Yeah.
You don't want to just let anyone be in, right? But of course, when you have your home hat on, you want to be inviting, you want to be sociable, so it's different.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to framing, but you know, or the pretext, reason for being.
Yeah.
So, like, if I was running a company and I had, you know, my employees who were like very scrutinizing when it comes to who is let in, I wouldn't hold that against them. It depends on the work environment.
Yeah.
Like, it depends on their work environment, and do they, like, is it sensitive enough? Is it sensitive enough to warrant being a little bit of an asshole?
Yeah.
And for your line of work and for my line of work, I would say yes, it is.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, I've seen cases where somebody who's unknown, eventually we find out that they have a legitimate reason, like real legitimate reason to be there.
Yeah.
But they go on for like 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes without anybody questioning.
Yeah.
Yo, like, who are you?
That's true.
Simply asking, who are you?
You know, it's not like a humble brag on my point, but even though at my company I conduct interviews and stuff, so I know pretty much everybody that's going to be hired. But when somebody gets to my location as a new hire and they just walk right in, I immediately ask them, like, who are you and what are you doing here? It kind of freaks them out in a way. But I don't know who they are and why they're there until they tell me their name, because my work is fairly sensitive. And I question everybody that's in there. And then, yeah, I guess, you know, that's just pertain to our work.
Well, I think you're asking because, of course, if something were to happen, I know you don't want that guilt on your shoulders, especially if it's job threatening.
Yeah.
And so, again, you have a reason for being a little bit of a cynical asshole. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, it probably should be a little bit more encouraged. Right?
I try to do it.
There's an example that Kevin Mitnick uses in one of his books. I just can't remember if it's Art of Deception or Art of Intrusion, but it was one of his earlier books where you know, somebody is pen testing and they're trying to infiltrate the company. So what he does is he spills coffee on his resume because he's you've heard this one, right?
Yeah.
So you're applying for a job. So he spills coffee on his resume, maybe not on purpose, but he walks in, you know, maybe, let's say 30 minutes before his interview. He goes to the receptionist saying, "Hey, look, I just spilled coffee on my resume. Could you take this USB and just print out my resume for me? You know, I really want this job, and this is just how my day's been going." Yeah. Well, again, being the decent human being, that has tricked the receptionist into plugging in the USB. Yeah. But what's the pretext there?
Well, the pretext is they're there for a job and they really want it, and so the receptionist,
right?
You know, like you said, being a decent human being is just going to they're not going to think about it. They're going to naturally plug it in because they have the capability to print it, and they don't want to be the person. They don't want to feel the guilt of, even though this person is having a shit day and they screwed up by spilling coffee, they still don't want the guilt on themselves that they didn't print that person's resume and they could have endangered their livelihood. That's what I think of it.
So, yeah, the pretext, like you said, it's the person going in for the job. Slightly more than that, it's the fact that the coffee was spilt. Remember, why? Like, what is the reason for being? What is the reason for the USB device being plugged into the computer? So the reason for the USB device being plugged in the computer is not because he's only applying for the job. Yeah. The pretext goes a little bit further than that, and it's more like, okay, he's applying for the job, he's here for the interview, and he spilled coffee on his resume. Yeah. That's the pretext. Okay. That's the reason for being. Yeah. And that's what pretexting is. The reason for being, it's your story, it's your alibi. Any comments?
No, I mean, yeah, that's a perfectly good point.
All right, so I want to move on to the do's and don'ts. And I only have a couple of each. The do's and don'ts of pretexting. Okay. So a lot of people think, in order for me to pretext, I need to have this elaborate story or whatever. No. You want it to be as simple and as actually as forgettable as possible. Reason being is, let's say as a pen tester, you've compromised a company. You don't necessarily want somebody to be able to point you out. Yeah. You want to be forgotten. You want to be, well, it could have been that guy, or it could have been that girl, or it could have been these 3 UPS guys in the last 3 days. Anybody could have been the person who infiltrated your company.
Yeah.
You don't want to be found out. So I have a list, and it's a really small list. I have like 2 do's and 2 don'ts. I was thinking about more of them, so if you can think of more, let me know. So do's and don'ts of pretexting. Okay? Do's, I think I just said it, make it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
You want to be forgotten.
Yeah.
Okay? The next one is do this for pretexting. Okay? Research the shit out of your pretext. Now, what I mean by that is, let's go a little bit, just slightly more elaborate. Okay, so we're not just the employee, we're not just the cable repair guy, we're not just the bug man. Okay, let's say the pretext involves you knowing the lingo, like you're a phone lineman. Well, if you're a lineman, you need to know phone terminology, the lingo, just in case you're quizzed.
Yeah.
You know, what is a TN? What is a DID? And I'm only using this because VoIP, right?
Yeah.
But what, you know, all these terminologies, the lingo. If you're going to be pretexting as a cybersecurity analyst, okay, you need to know the lingo that cybersecurity analysts use. It's a totally different ballgame than what I use in my field.
Yeah.
Right. So if I don't know that and I'm called on it, I fucked up the pretext.
Yeah.
And so
they can be easily found out and remembered.
Exactly.
You know, if you don't know, like basically, if you don't know the lingo, you could burn that identity. You can't go back. People are going to remember you.
Exactly. Yeah. So with those 2 in mind, so remember we said keep it simple and research the hell out of your pretext. Yeah. Know the lingo of what you're doing. If you're a cable repair person, you need to know cable repair terminology. Yeah. Why do they do it? What do they do? How do you splice cable? How do you crimp? How do you crimp cable? You know, maybe you need to know that.
Yeah.
If you don't know that and you're trying to pretext as that role, you're going to have a problem. Can you think of any other do's before we move on to don'ts? If not, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Okay, so let's move on to don'ts. Yeah. Do not do the following. And again, I only have a couple. Okay? Do not use accents, like language accents, unless you are really good at them. And I mean extremely good. I like to think that I'm decent with accents. And for those of you who may know me, you might agree that I'm decent at accents. But I would not use accents in pretext. I just don't think I'm that good because consistency. Yeah. You have to use that accent for the entire time that you're under that pretext. Yeah. And a pretext could last anywhere from a few minutes to maybe, if you're doing a long con, a few months. Where every time you pick up that phone, like let's say you have a callback from one of your targets. Yeah. Every time you pick up that phone, you have to be consistent. You have to have that accent. Yeah. You have to, you know. So if you're doing an Irish accent, if you're doing a Bronx accent, you have to be consistent. Yeah. And I think that's just a very difficult thing to do. Yeah. Unless you are really good at it.
Yeah. I mean, like you said with the phone thing, is even if you have, like, let's say you're doing like 4 different campaigns, like I'm thinking red team campaigns. Right. If you pretexted an Irish accent at ABC company, but you didn't do that at XYZ company, but they're calling the same phone number, and you're just in a very long con with both of them, if you answer with or without one of the accents, and it turns out to be the other company you didn't use that at, you're fucking blown.
It's fishy, right? Yeah. So yes, I love accents. I just don't want to use them.
Because love them; they're fun, but
I don't think they're great for pretexting. Yeah. Okay, and another one, and I've said this already, but do not be too elaborate. Do not be too elaborate. Why is that? You want to be forgotten. Yeah. You want to be forgotten. You want to get in. If you're pen testing, if you're a red teamer, you want to get in, get the objective, and get out. Yeah. You don't want somebody to remember your name. Your you know, really remember you. You want to be a gray man. You know. Yeah. Most spies are gray men. Like you don't remember them. You don't know them. You're not supposed to know them. Yeah. You're not supposed to know that you interacted with somebody from a 3-letter agency. Yeah. Okay. That's, you know.
You mean homework
or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. But do not be too elaborate, because being too elaborate. Another thing too, being too elaborate means that you have to remember more of your story. Yeah. If you don't keep your story, simple,
liars.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't keep your story simple, and it's too elaborate, then you have to remember these details. Yeah. Oh man, well I had a croissant fish sandwich at 3:00. Okay, well, is that going to be easy for you to remember? Yes? No? Okay. Well, whatever. You know, or could you be more general? Okay. Don't be too elaborate and be as general as possible so that you can remember the story. And that's a little bit off topic with the pretexting, but it kind of goes hand in hand. So if you could think of any more don'ts, let me know.
Yeah.
But that's all I've got.
Some for next episode.
Sure.
Yeah.
So with that, maybe we could bring this one to a close.
Yeah.
So again, everybody, today we were talking about pretexting and the differences between pretexting and framing. What exactly is pretexting? It is your why. It is your story. It is your reason for being. It is your alibi. That is your pretext. So, Zenify, do you have any last remarks?
Nope. Other than we have Patreon and we have everything else.
Yes.
Pretty much just my signing off remark.
I will put the links into the description down below for contact information with us, how to become a Patreon, how to support us and hang out with us. I'm working on a few things, maybe like a live thing. That would be great.
Yeah.
So many things that we can do with this thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you want to get at us on Twitter, it is at Mental Overflow. Zenify.
Then you can find me at Zenify_EXE.
And if you want to get a hold of me directly, it is at Chenbox, CHENB0X. So, all right, everybody. That was another episode of Mental Overflow. Please join us again next time, and thank you for watching.